Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage GVP and GM, Oracle NetSuite, Lee Thompson.
Welcome to SuiteConnect Sydney 2019. So we're delighted to have you here with us. And first of all, I just want to announce that we've had a lot of registrations. In fact, we're almost at 1,000 people in the audience today. So we're very excited to be hosting up to 1,000 people here. And the profile of people that you have here, we have customers, we have partners, we have industry analysts, and we have journalists. We also have, hopefully, future customers with us, and we hope that you enjoy what you see today. But before we do that, there is a little hygiene issue I need to deal with, and you can see that I work for a US company by the spelling of the word harbour. So this is what we call our safe harbour statement. I'll give you an opportunity to read it, but essentially what it's saying is do not make any decisions based on any forward-looking statements that you hear today. Okay, so that's the formal part of it. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors. So we have 4 categories of sponsors. We have silver and gold sponsors, so we're very delighted, and you'll be able to see these the sponsors out in the hall. We also have our platinum sponsors, Anexa, Celigo, and J-Curve, and a special call out for our diamond sponsor, DSI, and you'll hear DSI later on stage during the course of the proceedings. So the theme that I wanted to capture was around change. So just to give you some frame of reference, the last time we hosted an event like this here in Sydney was in 2016. And a lot has changed in a couple of years. So to give you an example, who can forget the outrage when a 9-year-old boy could not find his loved barbecue and chicken scrimpy shapes? And it's because Arnott's made the decision to change the shape and change the colouring of their offerings. There was outrage, and in fact the CEO of Arnott's was forced to backtrack and state that they would not change, they would continue that particular product. There was also outcry when we changed the uniform of our Olympic athletes from green and gold to the colour you see there. And unfortunately it did not translate into lots of gold for us at the Olympics. And if you think about our political leaders, we have in fact had in the last 2 years 3 leaders as Prime Minister of Australia, which is a bit daunting. So who knows what 2019 will bring? It may bring a 4th leader for us here in Australia. And then finally, since 2016, there is a new President of the United States. And there has been some conflict, as you know, between China and the US with regard to trade wars. And every person in this room is probably affected by that with the fluctuation of the Australian dollar. So there's been a lot of change. There's also been change with Oracle and NetSuite. In fact, NetSuite was acquired by Oracle, and I did want to give you some insights as to some of the advantages and benefits that we've seen through that acquisition. First of all, we've been able to establish now a far bigger and broader footprint across the world. In fact, we now have representation in 203 countries across the world for NetSuite. What we've also seen is we now have 16,000 companies that we're very happy to call customers, and since the acquisition, we've brought on 3,000 new customers to NetSuite. So let's have a look at ANZ, what's happening here in this region. So there's more love, lots more love, and in fact, we have been very successful in bringing on new customers here in the region. We have in fact brought on 600 or over 600 customers since the acquisition, and that equates to, for every business day since the acquisition, we've brought a new customer to NetSuite. So we're delighted to welcome all of those new customers since the acquisition. We've also had more products, and that's manifested in 2 ways. We've actually had access now to significant research and development funding from Oracle, which has enabled us to continue to innovate and provide best-of-breed products and solutions for our customers. So big investment in R&D, which means that every new cycle, when we release our products twice a year, has feature-rich offerings for our customers. It's also enabled us to develop SuiteSuccess, and you'll hear a little bit later about SuiteSuccess, but that's innovative for us. So we've talked about what's changed, but here's what hasn't changed. What hasn't changed is our commitment to our customers. And that has been a commitment that we've valued for the last 20 years, since the inception. And it means that we continue to provide solutions for small, mid-size and large corporations across multiple verticals: wholesale distribution, manufacturing, retail, services, across the board. And as I said earlier, across multiple countries. What we have also done is continued our commitment to giving back. So Evan Goldberg, who founded the company 20 years ago, was a big advocate of giving back and social-minded. And so with that, we have what's called a social impact program. And I'd like to invite Peggy Duvette, Social Impact Senior Director, to come and talk about our social impact program. Come up on. Now, Peggy is French, so please.
I'm sorry if I'm French. Truly sorry. But I'm proud of it.
One of my favourite French people. So, Peggy, thank you for coming on stage. And can you tell us a bit about the Social Impact Program?
Absolutely. So we have more than 1,300 non-profit, not-for-profit customers that are effectively operating on NetSuite. So much greater operation thanks to NetSuite. We're so thrilled. And having been an executive director myself for a non-profit a few years back, I know firsthand how important it is to not have to worry about your back-end operations and really focus on your mission. At NetSuite, we are truly committed to our customers, and we are so glad to partner with those not-for-profit. We have 3 core pillars that you can see right here. So we offer a software donation to nonprofits of all sizes through Suite Donation, and we've given over 100 million plus in value. But giving away technology is not enough, and I know that for a fact, because we want to make sure that the technology is used effectively. So what we do also is we have a pro bono offering, where we match our employees from all around the world with our not-for-profit customers to help them use more effectively the software. And finally, we want to make sure that the not-for-profit can accelerate the mission with NetSuite. So we've built a Suite Capacity program that helps building projects to accelerate the mission.
Thank you. And so I've seen many of our non-profit customers benefit from the program, especially Suite Pro Bono. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. So Suite Pro Bono is our signature program. So what we do is every quarter, our not-for-profit and social enterprises can apply and basically have support for their NetSuite operation as well as their business operations. So for example, we had Guide Dogs for the Blind of Queensland that applied for pro bono and were able to configure the dashboard thanks to our employees giving away their time. But what I'm thrilled and excited to share today is that we're expanding a pro bono, so we not only help not-for-profit customers on NetSuite, but also with their business operations. So what does that mean? We recently matched 13 projects, so basically match our employees with a not-for-profit to work on fundraising, business development, strategy, because we all know that on a day-to-day, it's very hard to run a non-profit, so we want to support them in all aspects of their operations.
And Peggy, I know you have a big event coming up later this week. Can you share with us?
We do. So we have our first ever in Sydney, a Build-a-thon for Good on Thursday in Sydney. This is super exciting. This is the 7th global Build-a-thon for Good in the last 8 months. And what is it? It's a Suite Pro Bono event. It's a face-to-face, in-person event where we're going to bring our employees with our not-for-profit customers to basically solve a determined solution. So what does that mean? We've selected organizations that have the time, that have the technical capacity, and that are willing to scale on NetSuite. And then we basically offered employees to join, and they will be basically looking over the problem. They will help identify a solution, and they will build that solution on the day of. So if you're in Sydney on Thursday, we want to welcome you to a showcase hour, which will be late afternoon. And what's going to happen is the not-for-profit customers will be presenting the solution that we built on that day. And I can tell you, they come inspired. We had one in the US, and this nonprofit Thankyou Global came to me and says, Peggy, do you realize I have saved, thanks to your employees, we've saved 30 hours of manual work a month.
Very good.
30 hours that you could put towards your mission. So on Thursday, we'll have two of the organizations that will be coming. Will be Goode 360, as well as a Big Kitchen. A Big Kitchen is a community-run charity that basically provides meals to people in need in Sydney. Last year alone, they were serving 80,000 meals, so pretty incredible mission. So they'll be joining us on Thursday. And also, if I recall, we're going to be having Goode 360, and I believe she's going to share her stories right now.
I believe so. So thank you very much, Peggy. And let's invite up Alison Covington from Goode 360. Thank you, Peggy.
Go ahead. There we go.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So first of all, can we just go back one, please? Thank you. First of all, you're not French.
No, sorry. Don't have that lovely accent.
So there are some synergies with Goode 360 that we spoke about actually when we caught up earlier, and NetSuite. Can you tell us about 360, your mission and what you do?
So Goode 360, I started here in Australia in 2015. What we do is we talk to businesses who have spare or excess goods. We run a marketplace, an online marketplace, so we use NetSuite and Magento to connect the spare of businesses to charities here in Australia, and we give that to Australians in need. So those sorts of products are excess in clothes, toys, homewares, anything that's not food, and we work with some of the retailers, large brands like Big W, L'Oreal, Lush, and Lego. And in that small amount of time since 2015, we've had over $70 million worth of goods donated to Goode 360, and that's 6.2 million items we've put into the hands of people who need it most.
Congratulations, that's amazing.
Thank you.
And that's very cool. And what were some of the challenges you found in matching the model of matching corporate goods to people in need?
So I think when I first looked at the idea, we knew that people were doing food, and we all talk about war on waste and food. And what I wanted to know was the scale of the problem of other products that we have here in Australia, and I wanted to know that it was scalable and we could do it with large amount of goods. The US were doing it. Goode 360 in the US had been doing it for 30 years, and they now have done $9 billion worth of goods. So the issue that I was facing was how we were going to scale it and what technology we were going to use, because we needed to have warehousing, logistics, sales teams, marketing, needed CRM. So we had to consider what technology we would use, and that's why we used NetSuite integrated with FireApp into Magento. You know, we have a big tech architecture there, and so that was one of those issues that we looked at and said we need to be all things to all people, just like for-profit businesses, we need to have that. And most people look at charities and don't think that they have all those capabilities in-house, and that was one of the issues that we faced right at the beginning. I often talk about is that we had to build the jumbo jet when we were literally 2 people on a bicycle, but we were scaling for the future.
Very good. And is there a specific person or situation or impact that really stands out as memorable in the work you do?
Yeah, so one of the ones that I always think of that really resonates with me was that one of our donors is Lush, and you know, most people here in Australia are very familiar with that brand and how popular that is with women or teenage girls. And we had a charity that ordered it that was very worked with men's charity as such. So we sort of spoke to them to sort of say, you know, why was that product important to you? And they told us a story about how a single dad had donated or had given those items to his teenage daughter, and how important that was for that teenage daughter to be equal as her peers at high school. And I think, you know, if we all think about mental health issues and bullying and all those issues that go around with being a teenager, that dad who's raising that the single dad raising that daughter, you know, he was cool to his daughter. And I think, you know, I have teenage boys and I'm never cool to my teenagers. And so we were able to make that single dad cool in the eyes of his daughter. And I think that's the thing that's so important to me, is that product that was spare or excess is having a new life and making people cool.
Oh, that's very cool.
And I think that's just so important and provides so much dignity.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about the Build-a-thon for Good. So assuming people volunteer and helping, what would that look like?
Okay, so one of the things that we've been getting bigger, and so we really want to activate the CRM system within NetSuite in our organisation, because, you know, we're working with multi-layered corporates, and we need to make sure our CRM system is catching up or, you know, working effectively in our organisation. So we're really excited for Thursday, and that's one of the things that we want to make sure we're using effectively. So we're going to build that out. So we'll be happy to report back on that on Thursday.
Good. All right. So we have our big kitchen back at the expo. Great opportunity for attendees here today to participate. And I'm assuming there's an opportunity for people to work with you that can approach you and have a conversation around how they can assist more.
Yeah, of course. So, you know, if you're a business that has the spare goods, I'm happy to have a conversation about how we work with you with those spare goods. Or if you know charities that need our help, we work with 1,000 charities here in Australia. There's 56,000 in Australia. We're happy to work with more. And we know that there's a lot more businesses that wouldn't even know that we exist because we're so focused on food waste.
Right.
So we'll
Alison, thank you very much. Round of applause. Thank you very much.
And should we talk about the activation? The activation outside.
Oh, I'm sorry. And just a reminder, do you want to say this?
Yeah, so NetSuite has organised that we're going to do an event outside at the end of this function where you're going to be able to help us pack bags. So we've got some items that we're all going to pack together, and then we'll be able to distribute those to the charities. So you're going to make people be cool in the eyes of people in need. So that will be happening at the end of this event.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Round of applause for Alison. All right. So at this stage, I would like to introduce the Senior Vice President of Global Field Operations, and that's a big title, Jason. So I'd like to invite Jason Maynard up on stage. Thank you very much.
Australia, you can tell. Not even close to being from France. I'm from California. So Lee wanted somebody with a funny accent. So he's like, let's get the guy from California to come up. So I speak English and a little bit of dude. So I apologize. I live in LA, so, you know, I'm going to say funny words. So just tell me to, you know, rewind if you want me to. So anyways, it's great to be here. And I'm excited. It really has been almost 2+ years since we've been here. And as Lee said, a lot has changed. A lot hasn't changed. But our commitment is we're going to be back here more often than not in the coming year and make sure that we continue to be here and talk about what's going on, share with you some of the stories like you've heard already about what's happening in the region. It's really important for us to be local in everything we do, even though we're a global business. So it's great to be here. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about what growth is. There's a lot of talk, I think, in the press and the media about what's happening in business. We're trying to ground this a little bit and focus on what growth is and what growth isn't, and what does it actually mean to grow beyond. So growth, to me, it's a couple things. First, it all starts, I think, with your purpose, right? What is the mission? Now, one of the things that you heard already today was the social impact initiative we have at NetSuite. That was founded 20 years ago, right? We didn't start this just in the last year or two. This was something that was built into the core from ground up. That's part of what we are as a company. Our true north, one of the things that really kind of grounded us from the start was this notion of how do we help entrepreneurs succeed, right? That was the genesis of the idea that our founder, Evan Goldberg, had with Larry Ellison 20 years ago, was to build a company to help entrepreneurs succeed and ultimately help a business grow. That has then translated into the culture. As you can see, how we integrate social impact into everything we do. We integrate this notion of how do we make customers successful into everything we do. We then have a strategy, we measure it, right? Just like you guys do. we are doing the same things in terms of thinking about what are the steps it takes to layer growth. Are we expanding into new countries? Are we offering new products? Are we offering products as a service, right? Are we changing the way a product is consumed by our customer? These are all things that we have to consider when we're on this journey of growth. I think one of the things that gets often confused is we focus on the outcomes, right? We look at the metrics. And it's important to measure what you do in any business. But it's more, I think, important today than ever to think about those underlying processes. Think about what it takes to create a good outcome. I heard a quote the other day, and I thought it was fantastic. It was talking about the changing role of the CFO, which is, CFOs today don't just count the beans, they actually have to help grow the beans, right? The role of finance and operations in supporting the growth initiatives are more important than ever. You may need to find margin improvement to fund your next growth initiative. So these are all things that are becoming, I think, part of how an organization looks. Now, I think the one thing that I want to end sort of my growth is talk, and I think it's super important, is you always have to keep the main thing the main thing. It's really hard to do that, but having that focus, staying true to that mission, and following through on what your goals are is all part of how you think about growth. Now, let me talk about what growth isn't. I think as a technology vendor, we're guilty, just like everybody else, of what I'll call three-letter acronym, buzzword bingo. We want to talk about disruption, or we'll talk about cloud first, or maybe we'll talk about mobile first, and we'll come up with all sorts of three-letter acronyms to describe some problem. The biggest one these days, you cannot go anywhere without somebody talking about digital transformation, right? We all getting digitally transformed? I don't even know what it means anymore when I hear somebody say digital transformation. What's happening right now, I think the technology industry is so focused on these sort of buzzword, easy-to-say monikers, and they're losing track of what's really important in terms of how you change your business. We're all trying to solve business problems. These are human problems, right? How do you hire a great team? How do you build great products? How do you improve customer experience? How do you grow the top line? How do you grow the bottom line? It's not about all of these buzzwords. And so that's one of the things that I think is really important for your own business. Don't get sucked into this stuff, right? Stay true to your focus. Keep grinding away on the things you have to do. So with that, I want to announce something. We're pleased to announce our disruptive, autonomous, self-driving, organic, farm-to-table, predictive, AI-based blockchain as a service. Yeah, all right, no, just kidding. All right, we're guilty of it too. We actually hired some people into NetSuite who weren't from the technology industry, and they taser anybody who actually says words like disruptive or AI or blockchain too often. So kind of keeps us focused. It's good. So one of the things I want to say is we do actually understand growth. We've been at this for 20 years, right? NetSuite was founded on this notion of helping an entrepreneur succeed. We were building technology solutions to make life easier for these entrepreneurs. Like Lee said, we're up to 16,000 customers. We're pushing $1.5 billion in sales. And our role is really to be a partner with you on that journey. So we like to use some analogies here. So you guys, anybody Wonder Woman fans? Right? We like to think you're Wonder Woman and we're the golden lasso, right? The lasso of truth. We're going to help provide clarity. For Australia, do you guys like Thor? Right? Like, you're Thor, we're that hammer. We're just banging, problems out of the way for you, right? But you're the hero in this journey. We understand, we see this. This is what we were built on to talk about. So one of the things that we measure is we like to look at how well our customers are doing relative to the rest of the world. So congratulations, you guys are growing 6.5 times or so faster than the average Australia share index companies. We looked at this for both the 200 and the 300, and on both measures, NetSuite customers are growing faster. Now, this isn't us, this is you guys, but we're part of this journey with you, and it's impressive to see, you're in a small group of companies here that are growing much faster than the rest. We did some more digging because we were trying to find out and understand what makes growth companies tick, right? It's interesting. Those companies that are using our One World product, which means you're selling globally, they grow faster. So important, obviously, consider global expansion as one of those drivers to help you grow faster. What's interesting, commerce, those actually moving online and selling, faster growth. And then the holy grail is if you're selling online, doing it globally, fastest growth of all of our customers. And so this is not about us. This is about you guys employing those strategies, right? Pushing your company to the limits, and you get the results. And it's pretty amazing when we look at this batch of customers. This is not 50 companies we're talking about. This is hundreds and hundreds of companies that are producing really amazing results. So I think one of the things that when we try and dive in as a company and think about, well, it's not just the tangible outcome, but it's like, what is the process? How do you actually get these results? What's the cause of this? So what we've learned is that growth for most companies, even like ourselves, it's a journey, right? It's not one thing you do. It's not one strategy you put together today. That changes over time. And so what we find is that every business will go through these stages, right? You may grow, you may hit a plateau, you may grow again. There's inevitable challenges that come. What we've tended to find in our hundreds and hundreds of customer interviews, it typically will come down to two things. It's visibility and control. We find most companies start talking to us when visibility and control start to become difficult to manage. It's really interesting. So some of the things that we hear on the visibility front, right? How and why is my business performing the way it is, right? I used to be able to talk to all my customers. Now I've got too many customers. I don't know everybody's first name. I'm losing visibility in my business. How many of you guys end up creating silos as you grow because you want to solve a problem and you pop up a little division, right? Do you ever end up breaking a process that you had in place because you're opening up something new, right? You make an acquisition. All sorts of things break that visibility. The control piece is when you lose visibility, you lose that mechanism, right? That allows you to control, manage, maybe pivot, control expenses, the things that you do. So this visibility and control, they work together, right? What we want to help our customers is figure out these moments where how can you rationalize and bring the visibility you need into your business so you can make the right decisions, and then ultimately the control is that lever you pull when you need to change. And guess what? Just like us, we got acquired, we've gone through change, you're going to change as well, right? So these are two things that you're going to experience. We call these sort of the grow beyond moments, right? And every company has these examples. So I'll give you a few stories. So I mentioned siloed operations. This is one I think we all face. Inevitably, when you're growing, you're going to put a SWAT team together to go after a little area, and that can take off. That creates, if you will, fragmentation in your business, right? It could be a new business model. We're seeing change more and more. You're going to hear a little bit about some new business models of a couple companies here in a second. But 20 years ago, we flipped the world on its head with licensing software to selling it as a subscription, right? Other companies are on their own digital transformation to try and figure out how to do that even today. And so there's all sorts of those things. New competitors, regulations. This is another huge area where you can't get around this stuff, right? This is going to impose change onto your business, and you have to be able to adapt, transform, work through those type of regulatory tax and all that fun stuff that you got to deal with as a business. So I'm going to bring up two folks here. We're going to talk a little bit about what they've been going through in their business. Excited to bring up Myles, Lawlor, the CTO of Youfoodz, and Aaron Stevens, the VP of International Business Development of DSI. Come on up, guys. All right. Hey, Myles. Aaron, how you doing?
Good, Jason.
All right. So, Myles, you've got an amazing growth story. Your business is on fire. Not literally, but you're growing so fast. For those of you who don't know, tell a little bit about what you guys are up to.
So I'm not French either. So apologies for this accent. So I'm the CTO of Youfoodz. If you don't know what we are, my marketing team's not doing a good enough job. We are one of Australia's largest fresh food delivery companies. So we deliver ready-made meals, fresh juice, chocolates, and protein ice cream all around Australia within 48 hours of you ordering. And we also distribute among our retailers, IGA, Coles Express, BP.
So when we were doing the prep work, they sent me some stats on Youfoodz, and I got to admit, I thought they literally sent me this information was a typo, but it said something about 500% growth over the last 3 years. And I thought it was 50. And I was like, wow, these guys are amazing at 50.
Yeah.
But you really are 500%.
500%.
How does that happen?
Well,
that's crazy.
Well, I age is what happens. I'm only 20 years old in reality. What we did was we focused on the product. Food is everything to us. So when you get the food, it is the best quality food possible. It's made by chefs. We focus on the customer. We're obsessed at a customer level. So we go down to the packaging. We actually figure out, when you pull back that cellophane, how that feels. We measure if that's coming off in a certain way. We also get customer feedback, and we iterate on that every single week. So there's an email that goes out that's full of statistics of what our customers are saying, and all the department heads have to answer that. And that's constantly driving us to better ourselves, from delivery times to better tastes to better packaging. So that's...
Well, you made a comment earlier about how fast you actually turn the inventory that comes in. So I want to bring Aaron into the conversation a little bit here. So you work with, obviously, NetSuite and Youfoodz, but maybe talk a little bit about how you guys partner and work together to actually enable this amazing time to market to happen.
Absolutely. We will actually work directly with NetSuite. I think it was about not even a year ago, right? When they came to us and we started talking to Youfoodz, they've got an extremely complex supply chain, right? That really required a couple things, right? One of them is real-time visibility into inventory, right? When we start looking at how do you deploy supply chain applications fully integrated back into NetSuite, and an inventory management system that provides Youfoodz and Myles that real-time visibility to make those business decisions, right? So it was really around how do we talk about our product offerings, sitting down with Myles, going through that, talking about his growth, mapping that to his requirements, and then really off and running. I think we had some of our first applications up in under 3 weeks, right? So that was really how we got started with these guys, and about building a relationship to say, if something does go wrong at 1 a.m., you can call and somebody will pick up.
I have made that phone call.
Yeah.
So.
What's interesting to me is Youfoodz, you're building effectively a new category, a way to consume food, and maybe talk about some of the dynamics that are driving that in the marketplace. Because typically, you could go out to eat or bring food home, or you'd have to go through the process of actually buying the groceries and cooking the meal, and that takes time. So what was the sort of the genesis of what do you see happening in the market?
Well, I think something that clicked in us is packaged food used to be all around weight loss or diet or something negative. It's like, ugh, God, packaged food, I'm losing weight. We changed that around.
It was so bad you didn't want to eat it.
You didn't want to eat it. And we were like, let's change this around. Let's make the product so awesome. We're all having these super busy lives. Our CEO likes to talk about we're one of the only products on the market that actually give you time back. All right? You get this incredible meal. Peel back the cover, you heat it up, you pan fry it, whatever you want to do it. You feel good about yourself. Yes, it is healthy, so you're losing weight if you want to lose weight. And then you put it in you reduce your waste, your food wastage, your costs, and then you go off and have time with your family. So it was like the genesis was like, we got to give freedom back to our customers, and that's what's kind of propelled us to where we are today.
Yeah. You work in the international market for your company. I mean, have you seen anything like this with this quick pace of growth?
No, it's kind of funny because we were at SuiteConnect London, right, with Schneider Solar, division of Schneider Electric in France, billion-dollar organization, right? Great story. SuiteConnect West in San Francisco, Sugar Bowl Bakery, another great story. But what these guys are doing from, you don't want to say digital transformation, right? But how they are transforming their business from a supply chain perspective to meet the needs of their customers is, I think, one of the best success stories that NetSuite has, and we're proud to be a part of that.
Maybe to give you some context, right? Because how complex this is and how quick we get you a product. So when you order, if you're ordering for Sydney, we can get you a meal tomorrow morning. The food that you've ordered is arriving fresh from those farms into Youfoodz now. We're only cooking it now. If you walk around Youfoodz, there's no stores of ready foods, there's no stores of meats or vegetables. That's only coming in from the farm as you've ordered it. That's immensely complicated to do. And we're shipping that through our own logistic mechanisms all around Australia, 7 days a week.
How many potatoes you smash a year, you think?
Well, we calculated this as a team last year. We smashed enough potatoes to equate to the weight of around 100 Yaris cars, just to give you a size of the amount of food.
That's a lot of mashed potatoes.
Yeah. We're cutting up on a daily basis tons and tons of vegetables.
All right. Yeah. What's next for you?
Well, again, it's listening to the customers. I mean, we're still only a small part of the overall food market, so we think we can do 500% again, right? So it's about listening to our customers. Our customers are fanatical. They constantly want new types of food, new ways of cooking. We got to get the magical burger out to you guys so you can heat it up. But international expansion is certainly something we'll do. Reduce our times to you, so when you have that desire of Youfoodz, boom, 15 minutes later, there you go. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you.
We want them to grow at 500% also.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Thank you guys very much. All right, go out. Place an order. Let's see how quick they do. So that's a great story. Amazing new category. You talk about growth. They didn't take the traditional business. They kind of flipped it on its head and did something different. And that's kind of the point. Every journey that you're going to be on for every company is going to be different, right? Youfoodz, this was all sorts of interesting changes in terms of how a consumer buying pattern, right, evolved over time. Our job, we look at this as how do we make sure you've got the visibility and control to keep scaling at 500%. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're up to with our own products. And some of the changes that we've made over the last few years, and I think one of the big initiatives that will hopefully make you all more successful in your own business. So we created I would call it a new model called SuiteSuccess about 3.5, 4 years ago. And SuiteSuccess was really a blueprint for how we thought customers should consume and use NetSuite technology. It changed almost every part of our business. Changed the way we built products, changed the way we sold them, how we serviced them, and then frankly, how we helped you optimize and continue to unlock, if you will, potential in the technology. And so what we did is we took all this knowledge that we had inside our company, all the smart folks who were in product and professional services and consulting, and said, how can we strive to engineer PS hours? How can we, out of a deployment, how can we take a leading practice and configure NetSuite so you don't have to do it on your own? And so these are some of the things that we've made to try and make the product easier to use. Now, what you'll see is this manifests into what we call a stairway, right? I think one of the things that we learned over probably the first 16, 17 years was that companies oftentimes, when they would deploy NetSuite, would want to replicate or recreate what they had in the on-premise world into the cloud. And we had to have these conversations where it's like, that may not be the best way to do it. And so we put this into the technology where we could give you a path, right, based on our own know-how. So every industry has its own stairway. So the path for a software company is going to look different than a retailer. If you're a manufacturer, it may look different than a distributor. Right? And so we tried to build this blueprint for visibility and control. It gives you 70, 80% of what you need. You can still customize or change what you need for your last, if you will, 20, 30%. But ultimately, it's a conversation and a path that you have with NetSuite about how we can move you to hopefully a better place in your business, faster growth, better margins, improve your cash flow. Now, the interesting change that's come out of this, and this was sort of our true north that drove us, was how do we improve customer satisfaction? So we've seen this in our own NPS scores. Customers today that deploy on SuiteSuccess are much happier. They get more value. It also costs less. And so what we've seen is customers will go live about 45% faster, measured in terms of times of days to go live. Easy for me to say. Implementation costs are running about half as much for same projects. Now, this was a big change because a lot of times software companies are set up just like external consultants where they have their own P&L, right? They get measured on billing and utilization and things like that. We have tried to engineer and design and configure a lot of that repetitive work out of the implementation so you can get to value quicker. one of the things we had to do, I'll share with you a little inside baseball, or inside, it's a little Americanism for you here, but a little inside tip, is we actually had to change compensation. We had to change how folks on our professional services teams were paid. So one of the growth lessons is we can design a product all we want, we can change a service offering, but if you don't change how people are paid, it doesn't work. And so we eliminated all these siloed P&Ls inside of NetSuite, and we comped all of our services people purely on customer satisfaction, kind of threw the traditional services scorecard out the window. And that resulted in higher NPS scores and greater customer sat. So one of our own journeys is you have to change everything. It's never just one thing that you have to do. So with that, I want to bring up I think, one of a great success story. Jane Trenery, the CFO of the Thankyou Group. Jane, come on up. Thank you. Hi. Good to see you.
You too.
All right. So maybe to kick it off, talk to folks and tell them a little bit about what the Thankyou Group does.
Sure, we've been around for now 10 years. It was started by a group of uni students back in the day who were faced with, they sort of looked at the stats of the world water crisis, and people essentially couldn't access clean water, and yet here we are, other people are spending so much money buying bottled water. So we flipped that on its head and essentially decided to fund water projects, water and sanitation hygiene projects through the funds generated by buying water.
So you generate the profits and it goes back to helping solve the bigger problem.
Absolutely.
All right. And you guys have been at this for a decade or so?
Yeah.
So it's been a little while that you've been going through.
Yeah.
But the business or the organization has expanded into selling other products as well. Maybe talk about your journey for...
Sure. So we started in water.
Yep.
At the moment, probably our largest product category is actually in the personal care space. So hopefully some of you have seen our hand wash, body wash, soaps, lotions, all those sorts of things. We're also in baby care and then nappies as well.
All right. So you're becoming a full, broad portfolio consumer company.
Yeah. Working the obviously fast-moving consumer goods, and then obviously every improvement, every dollar we make gets to fund projects. So it's a pretty exciting space.
That's great. So one of the, we always talk about, pivotal moments in success and customers that go on these journeys. You guys have had an interesting story. We talked about this a little bit before about how your customers' passion for your products help you grow your business. Maybe share that with the audience.
Yeah, sure. So our company really doesn't do things by the book normally. One good example is when we were trying to get ranging in Coles and Woolies. Obviously, we're now there on shelf, but it was quite a few years where the founders and the guys were going in trying to get the buyers to range us. They're saying, look, really it's a nice smelling hand wash, but I really don't think this will take off. We couldn't even get the door, actually. We couldn't get the interview for them to say that. So what we did is we got consumers, or the consumer movement came and they were saying to Coles and Woolies, hey, we really want to buy these products. We then got 2 helicopters, got banners from the bottom of the helicopters that said, hey Coles, hi Woolies, come and meet us. And we flew them around the headquarters the week before we potentially were trying to get a meeting. So it worked, we're ranged, it's all a good story now, but yeah, definitely I'm never surprised.
Great, you never take no. Don't take no, guerrilla marketing works. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's so cool. I love that story.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, and I think one of the things that's interesting to me is we were talking about some of the changes with SuiteSuccess and how you maybe have you used NetSuite in a prior company as well.
I do.
Maybe talk a little bit about what you experienced before and now what you see when you went live with SuiteSuccess.
Yeah, sure. So I did another implementation probably 5 or 6 years ago now, and it was the old school, get everything up, and it was a tough gig. It was interesting.
You didn't like it, just admit it.
Okay, I didn't like it.
You didn't like it.
I didn't know if I could say that. I didn't like
it's
it.
okay. It's just our friends here. It's all right. We could admit that.
Awesome. Yeah, it was interesting. So, and it was a long process. So, going on SuiteSuccess, we only went live this year, and having, I suppose, a different approach, having more of a pathway in front of us rather than, oh gosh, we've got to do all of this ourselves, or we've got to pay squillions of dollars to get this done. I think my favourite thing about the SuiteSuccess is probably the dashboard. So when we had everyone live, we were able to just assign everyone a role. We didn't have to pick and choose and work it all out ourselves. So yeah, it's definitely been much better process.
All right, it's good to hear. SuiteSuccess. You can change it too if you want. That's
yeah, I know.
the good thing,
Yeah,
right?
that's good.
All right, we're glad to hear. It's glad it worked out for you.
Yep.
Maybe talk about what's next. Where are you guys going? You're obviously expanding the product portfolio. What else is to come?
Yes, at the moment we've only just recently launched into New Zealand. So we went live in New Zealand mid to last year. So we've been ranged in foodstuffs and pack and stave. So we're trying to really cement that and grow the baseline there, and then obviously keep Australia growing well. But who knows? Global poverty is actually a global problem. So we'll see what happens next.
All right, well, we wish you the best, and thank you so much. Thanks, Jay.
Jason.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, everybody. All right. So, great story about obviously doing good, but also some interesting tactics. Not everybody has that on their growth playbook. Renting helicopters, I like that. We're going to take that one. We'll write that one down for us. I want to share with you a few more stories. I think we're going to talk a little bit about what I call sort of the science and the art of growth. Because I think it's important to look at these stories and not in the context of just purely how it played out for one individual company, but maybe give you a little bit more detailed metrics on some of the stuff that we're thinking about that maybe will change your business. So what I mean by science, we have 16,000 plus customers running NetSuite, right? We have a lot of data. We have a lot of understanding of processes. And so we've been on a mission to help harness this knowledge, to help look at every industry, look at every size of customer, and try and figure out what are those metrics that we can tie to these growth outcomes, right? One of the great things about living in the cloud for 20 years is that we've been able to build, if you will, a lot of know-how. We've seen what works, we've seen what doesn't work. And so we like to think about, we've got some source code, if you will, the cheat code if you're a gamer for business growth. And these are things that are all part of your NetSuite subscription. They manifest themselves in a conversation or a business review with NetSuite. But we're going to start bringing some more of this to the forefront. And I'll give you an example. So consulting, food and beverage, these are all core NetSuite industries. And so what we're trying to do is help pull this out of, if you will, the NetSuite machines and share it with you in a consumable way. And I'll give you a couple data points here. And I'll pick one, being service companies. So 3 metrics. How many of you guys are in service businesses here? You got any service companies, right? So you're with me here. Utilization rates, something you got to pay attention to. Annual revenue, for a billable consultant, and then customer reference percentages, right? And so these are all critical metrics, things that you got to look at. So we've got this data to take your performance and actually map it and benchmark it against an anonymized cohort. That's a fancy word of saying a big old pile of customers that you'll never be able to know. It's all safe and protected data that we can actually show how you compare to your peers. And so this is one of those things where when we start having conversations about what you should do in your business, we're trying to come at it with a very, very metric-based approach so we can get you the best possible outcome. So this is a way for you to look at across these different things. How do you comp out? Now, the other thing that we can pull out of this is some know-how, if you will, some advanced learning in our technology to look at your business and say, well, in this case, the way you could get more value out of NetSuite is you should implement project management. That'd be the number one thing. And we can look at this for each individual customer in their industry and come up with the best recommendations. So a services company will get this, software company will get something else. And this plays out across all sorts of different areas, whether it's testing, and maybe you need to use a sandbox for it, or if you're thinking about going global, what that looks like for a company of your size in your industry in terms of how many subsidiaries they're going to have to manage. And finally, it can play out where it can be even something just as basic. Hey, here are the benchmarking metrics in terms of growth rates for similar companies that look like you. And so this is one of the changes that we've been making over the last 2 or 3 years. You're going to see more of this coming. This is all going to be part of your subscription. It's not something new that costs any money, but it's another way that we can help, if you will, you get more value out of NetSuite. And so rather than take my word for it, let's play a little video and we'll share with you some customer stories.
Well, I have a wonderful invention I want you to see. It looks something like this.
NetSuite is at the hub of the entire business.
Well, NetSuite, like, for as large as they are, will never treat you like they are a large corporation and that you're just a customer.
I can quickly tab between Sydney or New Zealand, multiple countries, a couple of clicks.
Whether I'm at an airport or on a train or on a boat or surfing in the Maldives, I can be operating NetSuite and running the business.
NetSuite has provided a lot more visibility into our operation.
When you're trying to shift units and looking at markets and ticket sales and all the rest of it, sometimes the music gets lost.
NetSuite allows us to have control and visibility of our business.
The way that it's set up, we can easily search through our entire system. It allows people to spend time on giving back.
I can see the business doubling, tripling in the next few years, and I don't see the need to double or triple the background administration costs as a result of having NetSuite.
It's reliable, it's trustworthy, and it allows myself and our team to look forward into the future.
My vision 5 years is more global and international, and I think that aligns pretty well with where NetSuite's going.
I want to be like NetSuite. NetSuite wants their clients to grow so they can grow with them.
All right, some interesting examples, lots of different businesses all across the globe trying to do the same thing. But one of the things that we learned is that there's a science to this growth, but there's also an art, right? And so we set out about 12 months ago to create a new initiative called GrowWire. Now, GrowWire is a media network that we built to tell customer stories. It's not about NetSuite. You're not going to see any NetSuite product stuff in there. But we knew you had to have more than just the science. There is a key element in terms of the know-how, the learnings. And so with GrowWire, we have a website, podcast, TV show, social, newsletter, all different ways for you to engage with stories from entrepreneurs, from all sorts of different types of businesses across the globe to learn how they did it. And so this is a commitment that we're making, bringing to you, if you will, this content solely focused on this customer growth journey. So I encourage you, check it out, growwire.com. There's some great stories on there. You're going to see some new stuff coming here, I think, pretty quickly that'll, I think, open your eyes about the challenges that other entrepreneurs or business folks are going through as well. So really cool stuff, I think, that you can learn a lot from, and hopefully over the next year we can get some of you guys participating. And so we want to welcome you guys and have you check out and be part of the GrowWire network. So I also wanted to end on sort of this quote. Did you guys catch the Billy Morrison? He's a guitar player for Billy Idol, and he runs a business as well. And Billy's quote was, when you're trying to shift units, look at markets and ticket sales, sometimes the music gets lost, right? Nobody starts out in business with an idea solely focused on managing inventory. We love you, DSI, but come on. Nobody has that as their number one thing, right? Or, you're like really want to obsess on segmentation analysis in your data. I mean, or maybe DSOs. I mean, entrepreneurs don't dream of month-end closes, all right? Like, nobody goes to school because they want to master international tax or RevRec. Actually, I take that back. There's like a few NetSuite guys who do. They're a little, we have to have them around, but they were the ones who wanted to do it, right? But these are the nuts and bolts. These are the things, right? This is what Billy's talking about. Like, these are all the things that get in the way of growth, right? The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So we got to get you back to doing what you need to be doing, growing your business, right? We want you to focus on those things that are going to matter most, whether it's growing the top line or improving the bottom line. These are the things that we're trying to build technology and capability to help you do. So some companies want to push and sell software. What we really want you to take away with here is that we've got a whole arsenal of tools that are going to help you grow, right? Whether it's the products or the services, things like advanced customer support. These are all things that we're bringing to enable your growth. We want you to get out there, go make your music, play as loud as you can and as hard as you can, and thank you guys very much. I'm going to bring up Lee Thompson. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. All right, our next speaker. In fact, I have seen her on regular occasions. When I'm traveling, quite often I see her at the airport. And so you will all recognize her, I suspect, as the lady in red. So without any further ado, let me introduce Naomi Simpson, and we'll go to the video.
People say she's passionate,
yet approachable. A business leader with authority and influence. She is confident, accomplished, and always speaks with purpose. Famous for being performance-driven and ruthlessly focused. She plays to win, but equally learns from her failures. She's energetic, engaging, and says it how it is. This is Naomi Simpson.
So my wonderful team put that together for me, and I'm now thinking, oh, maybe it's a little bit much. You know, I was reflecting on the last time that I was in this room, and it's quite a number of years ago, and I got a phone call from a group, and they said, oh, you've been nominated for Businesswoman of the Year. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's amazing, that's really great. And I said, who am I up against? And they said, Christina Carlson. Now, for any of you who know who Christina Carlson is, she's the founder of KKK. She's absolutely fabulous. She's at least 10 years younger than I am and very stylish. And they said, who are we both up against? And they said, Elle Macpherson. I said, oh, fabulous. Anyway, so we arrived, you know, great. So we arrive and there's red carpet and all the rest, and, you know, it's really great. And they were taking photos, and they just said to me, oh, you just keep going on, it's fine. And I go, okay, great. Well, we clearly know what's going to happen here. And they had these lovely red cocktails. And I thought, I can have one or two, because I clearly don't have to speak tonight. It'll be absolutely fabulous. Had one, had two, or maybe three. And as you can tell, I speak pretty quickly anyway. So, and then they said, and the winner is Naomi Simpson. And I go, oh my God, I have to go and say something. And I turned to my husband, I said, oh, what am I going to say? And he said, what about, watch out the body, here comes the balloon. Yeah, so that, yeah, you know, didn't go so well. Anyway, we're here to talk about growth. And it's really interesting. Lots of people know a little bit about my story and how I started my business at home all of those years ago. I particularly love the word obsession. And maybe my team around me don't love this word obsession, but really to grow is to be obsessive. And it's to think about it over and over and over again. When I started my business, I didn't know it was really going to grow. I didn't know if it was going to be more than a, you know, homespun business. I had no idea. But what I did know is that I didn't want to stay at home. What I did know is I wanted to make a difference, and that I wanted to be successful. And so that meant I obsessed on growth. And there was 3 elements to what that growth meant. Firstly, it had to be in the centre of every conversation. Growth had to be everywhere. Talking about growth, where does growth come from? But growth doesn't happen in isolation. It doesn't happen without the right people, without the team. And thirdly, it's all about customer. And I use customer as a singular, not as customers, because customer is one by one by one. They make a choice. They are singular. They are one. Individual, and each want to be treated as individuals. So understanding that if I wanted to grow, I had to keep obsessing about it. I needed to make sure I had a team who were equally obsessive. And thirdly, that we had the customer and how to listen to customers. So many of you know the Red Balloon story. Many of you have heard it before. I started my business at home with $25,000 worth of family savings. I had no customers. I launched 3 weeks after September 11. And it took 2 months and 4 days to get the first customer. And it's a long, very long 2 months and 4 days when you've invested your family savings and your husband goes out every day and comes back and says, how's the projects going, sweetheart? No customers today, maybe tomorrow. And then finally, in the first week of December, 2 months and 4 days later, Damien Chown bought a stress-busting massage for his friend Scott Hedge. So I picked up the phone. Hi, we like to call all of our customers to find out how you experienced our website. And he said, what have I done? I said, you've just bought a stress-busting massage for your friend Scott Hedge. I said, what did you think of the website? And he goes, oh, it's crap. I didn't know I'd made a purchase. You never forget your first customer. In that first year, we served about 300 experiences. The year after that, we were serving 300 a month, and the year after that, 300 a week. It took us 10 years to deliver the first million, and took another 2 years to deliver the next million, and we've just passed 5 million customers that we've served. And people think it's an experiences business, but the reason why I founded Red Balloon was because I was a professional marketer. All those years ago, I worked for brands like Apple and Ansett and KPMG and IBM, and I'd worked in this industry. But when I had kids, I wanted to start my own show. So what I did was starting a marketing consultancy. Now, if there's one thing I found in producing these fabulous marketing plans, was that most small businesses really struggle to invest in consistent and ongoing marketing. And the reason is it's expensive. And you're building brand and you're building awareness, but right now I just need to make some sales. So I said, what could I do to deliver marketing services to a whole community? But what would they pay for? Well, they will pay for customers. So whilst people think Red Balloon is about the experience and this gorgeous moment of giving a fabulous experience, it's actually a marketing business. It's about delivering customers to 2,500 small businesses who are quite happy to take our customers, and then they can focus, a bit like the music, they can focus on what they're brilliant at, and we focus on the marketing, on the infrastructure and what's required. So the big, hairy, audacious goal was always about delivering 2 million experiences. Now we had to shift that because we got there. But we're not done yet. We're changing gifting in Australia forever. Now I worked as CEO in that business until 2011. And at that time, my business partner was my husband. And that wasn't going so well. So we separated. But we kept the business together, and I was asked to step aside from being CEO and move into a board role. And that was fine for a little while because I had a succession plan. And my succession plan was to have a person who'd work with me forever to step in as CEO. And she did. Gemma, and she did an amazing job, absolutely fabulous. Unfortunately for me, she chose to have a baby, which is great because you've got to have babies. I had them, that's why I started the business. But she needed maternity leave. But it's okay, we had a double succession plan because she had a backup. And then another marketing man stepped in. But then she went to have a baby too, very inconvenient. So then an external CEO was brought in, I was sitting on the board. And I watched and observed, unable to work in my own business, even though I owned half, and I watched the top line stagger. We got to 50 million turnover and it stayed there, and it stayed there, and it stayed there. And every year it just wasn't getting any more. And I was like, what about growth? What about obsession? What about obsessing on it? And what I'd watched is the business was beginning to be internally focused, not externally focused. I talked about people. We'd been recognised as a great place to work, what was going on with employee engagement. I kept talking about customer. What are your listening posts? How are we listening to customer? And I watched the operational expenses go up and the top line come down. As part of that, we had incubated a business inside Red Balloon, which is called Ready. And the reason why we did Ready was because it's all about experiences at work. I knew to grow my own enterprise, I had to be able to harness people. I needed to be able to recognise people. I needed to know their contribution. I didn't want to get to performance review time and only recognise 1 or 2 minutes, really, because that's about all we can remember in terms of their contribution. They know what London wanted to do this business, so I took it, and I took it outside the business because I believe in experiences at work. I know that experiences at work, and when you recognise people, it makes them feel included. So part of that was to create the employee framework. And the Ready platform helped us deliver on that. The employee framework is about understanding that people come to work whole and complete in exactly the way they need to be. And it's our job as leaders to ensure that they feel connected to an enterprise, to know that they know what they're there to do. Does anybody notice, and do they go home feeling like a winner? We have to have a rhythm of communication more than anything as you scale and as you grow. How do people gather your insights and know exactly what they're there to do? Why are they there? What's our big, hairy, audacious goal? We need to have company meetings and make sure people are truly welcomed. The first 3 months of anybody's employment, more than a half have already decided when they're going to leave. It's our job in that first 3 months to make sure they're truly connected to the enterprise and believe and can trust in why they're there. We needed to look at fitness. Moving around, they're now saying desks is the new smoking and sitting down all day. Making sure that we did things together as a team, that we were always learning, from book clubs to lunch to learns, to TED Talks to a library, making sure that we were learning and discovering and uncovering the grey matter. Recognition was key, our hub of activity and transparency, and integrating it into the systems that we already used, making sure our values and our offsites, and we celebrated. And that we also give. The fifth element of human well-being is our ability to give to our community, to give to others, whether it's us being a mentor, us being a buddy, us donating our time as part of our 1% pledge, and our 1,000 volunteer hours. So we had to have a people framework, and this was what we did to create a reputation as an employer. But ultimately, we stopped entering those awards, and one of the reasons we did is because you can set a rod for your own back. Ultimately, people choose to engage or not. We provide the framework, and people either want to participate or they don't. But ultimately, it's up to us as leaders to set that framework. There is nothing like being part of a focused, successful team. That is what delivers engagement. It's not the muesli bars. It's not the dog in the office. In fact, I remember once we won Employer of the Year, and one of those TV crews came in to find out why, and they saw my dog running around decks. And they said, oh, dog at work. Maybe that's why these guys are doing so well at the employee engagement. Well, Gemma, who was that first CEO, been with me forever, on her very first day at work, the dog had put his head in her handbag and eaten a hairbrush. Can I just say, they never got along. So they're interviewing Gemma about, why is this such a great place to work? And she's going, we've got a clear vision, our values are articulated, we live our values. And they said, oh, but what about the dog? Oh, yes, he's fabulous, Mr. Head of Security. Anyway, what goes on the TV? Oh, well, if you've got a dog at work, that's employee engagement. Can I just say, we would have had a perfect score if it wasn't for him. Because if you're in a meeting room and then he farts, truly, no one wants to be there. Anyway, I completely digress. But I'm talking about experience at work, and it's our job as leaders to make sure it's fabulous. But the experience at work is what Ready was created for. How do we shift people's experience at work? People want to be noticed, they want to be honoured, they want to know what they're there to do. For us, the team that plays together stays together. And it's about the outcome is inclusion, the outcome is diversity, the outcome may well be engagement. Our job as leaders is to create the framework and ultimately make sure that we bring people with us on the journey. So I was out, I had my Ready, which I was very passionate about. Red Balloon is beginning to be in decline. I'm not liking it very much at all. Luckily, I found a few other things to do. Wrote a couple of books, Shark Tank's 4 series, found lots of other things to do. But when the business that you believe in is not going well and you can't, you have to find a way. So I found a friend of mine who had luckily done his big exit in Europe and come back to Australia. And I kept saying to him, could you just help me a little bit at the office, because I've got a few problems. One of the best things I ever did was put him on the board in my place. Because sometimes when you step away, you get more power. And he was able to observe exactly what I was experiencing. And he said, you know what? This is an incredible business. It has a great opportunity. He said, let's find a way to acquire it. So we created the big red group, and it acquired Red Balloon. I still don't know, just between us girls, I still don't know if my ex-husband knows it was me that was behind that deal, by the way. One day I'll find out. Oops, social media, just not that bit. Anyway, so David Anderson and I created the big red group, and we came back inside the business, and we had a thesis. We had a thesis that there was more than one way to use an experience. Gifting might be $1 billion market. Experiences at work is definitely a massive market, but there's other ways that people use experiences. But as leaders, when we came into the business, we created the vision and our purpose, and it was simply to shift the way people experience life. To shift the way people experience life. And it meant that we had to make some really tough decisions. Some projects and businesses that people have been working on really, really hard, we had to close down and say, that's not in our vision. We're all about experiences. So the wrap business had to go. The huddle business didn't survive. We had to do other things. It was absolutely shifting the way people experience life. It drives us every single day. We created the mission for the first year to serve a customer every minute. And in our first year, we served an experience every 39 seconds to date. We are so focused and obsessed in growing. We also had to clean up our legacy technology. I'm kind of giggling because, it's so easy to start a business, right? It's so easy to start, but it's really hard to scale one. It's so easy to just go out and go, oh, I'll buy a bit of that, I'll buy a bit of that, that looks all right. But you're not really thinking, what happens when I'm serving a customer every second? How's that going to work? How's that going to work? And the database structures and all of these serious systems engineering things and so forth. So you have to really think it through. And I'm laughing because here we are 19 years later and we're still just about to close down the Cold Fusion servers. I'm buying the champagne when we do. But finally, after all of this time, people still look at me and go, why did you choose Cold Fusion? Because I knew no better. I knew nothing else. So really, I do say to all the startups, think about not now, not about the 10 customers you're going to serve. Think about the 100, the 1,000, the million. What does that look like? Who can grow with you? By 2025, we will serve a customer every second. And how are we going to do that? One is by living our purpose.
At the Big Red Group, we're all about shared experiences. Anywhere, anytime, and for anyone. In today's connected world, we understand that while we're busy living our digital lives, we can easily become disconnected from truly experiencing them. We believe that in sharing moments, memories, and experiences, we enrich not only our lives, but those of the people around us. That's why at the Big Red Group, we're shifting the way people experience life.
Uh-oh, my timing's out. Thank you. That's supposed to double up as a little moment I can have a little sip of something to drink. Anyway, we've got a bit caught out. So when we came back into the business, one of the things that we'd found, as I said, the operational expenses had gone through the roof. When I first started, I used to muck around with Google AdWords, and a cost to acquire a customer cost about 5 cents. Yeah, nice those days. It had gone up to $50. It was absolutely unsustainable. When we came back into the business, this is a marketing business. It's what it's there to do. It's a marketing business that works on behalf of 2,500 small businesses and gives them a brand. And I found that most of the core functions of marketing have been outsourced. And the retainers alone were $45,000 a month. I was like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of marketing. That's a lot of intelligence that other people are gathering that I'm not gathering about my own. I'm now being distanced from my customer. But we knew we couldn't do it the way we did it before. So we went out around the world and found a piece of technology. We had to find something. And when you go out and you find these things, it takes true leadership. It takes really, really tough decisions. And what we'd learned also is that management is different than leadership. I'm not a particularly good manager. Managing is about nurturing the uniqueness of the individual for the good of the cause. It's got nurturing in it. Doesn't go well with obsession. On the other side is leadership. It's about setting the vision, the values, and aligning people to that cause and calling them to action. Leadership is about being the absolute best in the world at what you want to do. We are very, very great at serving experiences. We are the best in the world at it. And that's how we needed to lead from that. But we couldn't do it the way we did it before. Finding customers, keeping customer was harder than it had ever been and massively expensive. So expensive. So we went out and about. Met Albert. Albert lived in Israel. We brought him to Australia. Albert is a piece of technology, an AI tool to serve digital marketing content. It connects directly into your first-party data and then serves through the Google Suite or through Bing or through anything else. But he's watching customer journey. He's watching where customers go until they ultimately come back. In the first time we turned him on, in the first few weeks, he took that $50 and turned it into $27. The next month, he turned it into $17. And during Christmas, for every $1 we spend, we get $16 in return. That's a sustainable business. He drives people into our platform so that we can then know more about them. Our purpose, and we loved it so much, we brought it to Australia for other businesses to use with a business called Marketics. It is the fastest growing digital agency in Australia, and we call it a digital agency because it's a platform and it makes it work. In November, we finally were able to fulfill on our thesis. And that was we'd built the infrastructure, the hub, and now we needed spokes. If we think about experiences, there's many jobs that it does. And we acquired, so growth became through a different way of acquiring. So we acquired Adrenaline, who was the number 2 in the marketplace. But their business is very different than the Red Balloon business.
Live life loud at adrenaline.com.au.
It's all about living life once. It's about booking, it's about going, it's about getting the best deals, it's about making sure you take the family out and about and get them busy. It's a different job that it's employed to do. And by 2025, it'll serve a customer every 30 seconds. Customer are people, not targets. Customers now, in the 20 years that I've been in business, engage in a completely different way. Trust is at the centre of everything we do, building brand trust, something that people can believe in. Everyone is precious. And the way I now look at growth is different. It's not one by one. It's what job am I being hired to do? Now, many of you might know the story about the thesis about what job I'm being hired to do. It's a Harvard Business Review article, and you can find it online. But the job you're being hired to do is often an emotional job. It might be functional, meaning transactional, or it might be social. Social, emotional, or transactional. And if you can understand why you're being hired, you will be able to speak in a personalised fashion to your customers. So when you know this, then you can either build your relationship through authority, through influence, through relatedness, through transformation. But it is very much about what job you're being hired to do. So I now look at experiences in the sense of, what job am I being hired to do? But always it's about trust. When anybody buys online, it's always about trust. One of the very first pitches all those years ago, when we started Shark Tank, this was the second pitch on the first day that we'd ever seen. We've now seen more than 400 pitches. And this woman came in. It was a little distracting because she had a pink and a blue chihuahua and one was in a pusher, but she had this incredible product. She said, I've got organic pet food and it's so good you could eat it. That was her customer promise. That's what it says on that sign right there. So I go, fabulous, and I stand up and I get out of the seat and I go there, and Steve's just yelling out, you're gross, and Janine is going, sweetheart, we're on television. And I go, no, it's so good you could eat it. And just as I pick it up like that and have a little taste, as you can see, having a little taste, she says, but I wouldn't. And I've just eaten pet food on national television, and I'm thinking about customer promise. I'm thinking about trust. Anyway, a brand is a promise. It creates expectation that the product has to deliver. And we often forget that. It's about one person doing business with another. It's about, do I trust, do I believe? So if I consider now, where does the big red group go from here? In what we've managed to achieve from turning over $50 million 2 years ago, turns over $100 million now, and is the third largest experience marketplace in the world. Thank you. That comes from never giving up, from being absolutely persistent, from being on the outside looking in, knowing that there must be a way. But I see massive growth opportunities. I was asked recently what I see for business. Business is more complex than it's ever been. Our job as leaders is to distill it into what is the one thing we need to get done right now and what is the three things that are coming right after. We need to make it easy for the people around us. We need to distill it into pillars. But these are the things that I'm looking at in terms of where real growth will come from. Analytics and intention data. Understanding what people are intending to do will give us and lead indicators will give us opportunity. Understand how people move around our community, radio frequency and beacons. I hate to say it, mobile is about to be old in some of the consumer worlds and it's all moving to voice. What does that mean for our businesses? Personalised user experience is more important than ever was before. Nobody wants to be treated with the sameness. Social intimacy. How are we intimate with people when they think they're speaking to us, when they're speaking to a bot? How do we make it really intimate? AI for digital marketing, which I spoke about, which is an integral part to our growth strategy. Mobile and wearable. How do people want to interact anytime, anywhere? People want to have an integrated view, digital wallets, augmented reality, machine learning, and also pricing models of how people want to pay. People want to pay so that they know that they are respected and they've got value at every level. So I see growth opportunities not just from acquiring more businesses into the stable and Big Red group. We see the extension in terms of the definition of experiences, and we also see growth into new markets. Today, you're hearing a lot of opportunity. You're hearing growth opportunities everywhere. When you get in the car or in the train or tram, wrong city, to go home, I just want you to think, what is the one thing? What is the one thing that I learned today that if I do that, I will shift my business? I will shift it forever. And sometimes it's a really hard thing. Sometimes it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of thought, but when you do it, everything else is going to become easier. So one of the challenges I face is people want to pitch me ideas all the time. I go, that's nice. You know what else? My kids get pitched all the time. Their friends are forever saying, hey, can you ask your mum if she thinks this is a really good idea? So finally, my son just puts his mate Timmy on the phone. Timmy goes, hi, Naomi. I go, hi, Timmy. He goes, I've got this really great business idea. I say, have you? What is it? And he says, you know how your head gets hot at night? No, Timmy, I don't know how your head gets hot at night. He goes, yeah, it gets really hot. I think we need a self-cooling pillow. I said, has anybody else done a self-cooling pillow? He says, I don't know. I said, did you look it up on Auntie Google? He said, I don't know. I see him at the sports say, hi, Naomi. I go, how's the project going? He said, did you know Tontine has got a self-cooling pillow? Well, I didn't know. So I feel this real responsibility because people will pitch me ideas and I think what I say might be important and I don't want them to give up what they were going to do and maybe start that one. Maybe it is a good idea or isn't a good idea. So my one thing became writing a book for all the people who've got a business idea. So I wrote Ready to Soar was hard. It was 84,000 words. It was 10 days of my life. People say, you wrote a book in 10 days? Yes, because I had a lot to say. So sometimes your one thing is a big thing. It takes planning. But now for every person who asks me, is this a big, good business idea? I've got an answer for them. So read this book. And if they're not going to read it, well, they're never going to be an entrepreneur because this is not an easy journey and it's not for everyone. So I ask you to think about the one thing. So your one thing might simply be coming to naomiSimpson.com and signing up to the newsletter. Because every Monday morning I have a little rant, a little rave and share about what I've learned. And I call it, what have I called it now? I've called it Monday Espresso, a shot of inspiration. So you may well want to come and join us. You know, one of the most gorgeous speaking engagements I ever did was when my son's school asked me to do the valedictory dinner for the Year 12s. But I felt such a responsibility because I wanted to leave them with something that was really powerful and important, that might take them on their journey. And so I said, there's those in life who watch what happens. There's those in life who ask, what happened? There's those in life who make things happen. You be the ones to make things happen. Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you very much. And just for those of you who might be interested, Naomi will be outside, and if there's any books that you'd like to purchase, I'm sure we can accommodate you. All right, we're at the closing stages now. So let us advance. Okay, so 3 things. First of all, please come and join us for drinks. We will have drinks available and at the expo, and there's also lots of activity. Please mingle, and as we said, the whole purpose of this is a networking event, so please make your way through there and mingle. Go support our Big Kitchen and Good 360, they will also be available. And then finally, fill out the survey for a chance to win. And the thing that I want to finish on is the next big thing for us will be in Las Vegas in the first week of April. We invite you, so we expect over 7,000 attendees at Vegas, and we would love you to come and join us for that particular event. So with that, I'll bring this to a close, and thank you very much for your time.